Hi, thank you for watching Digging into China. I'm Dong Xiong. Taiwan's defense ministry says last Sunday its air forces were mobilized to warn of 27 Chinese warplanes that had entered its air defense identification zone, including 18 fighter jets, 5 nuclear-capable bombers, and a refueling aircraft. Taiwan has also deployed missile systems for monitoring purposes. In the map provided by the Taiwanese Defense Ministry, the H-6 bombers and 6 of the fighter jets flew south of Taiwan into the Bashi Channel separating Taiwan from the Philippines before steering out into the Pacific and returning to China. Why are tensions high now? Because last Thursday, the U.S. Congressional delegation arrived in Taipei, pledging support for lawmakers there. And they met with Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. Last Friday, a spokesperson for the Eastern Theater Commander of the People's Liberation Army said the Chinese military carried out naval and air force combat readiness patrol in the direction of the Taiwan Strait. The spokesperson added, the Army will continue to be on high alert and take all necessary measures to counter at any time any interference by external forces and any conspiracy by separatists aiming at the so-called Taiwan independence. The members of the U.S. Congressional delegation are mostly Democrats. This was the second congressional visit in November. The delegation included House Democrats Mark Takano and Sarah Jacobs of California, Elisa Slotkin of Michigan, and Colin Allred of Texas. Nancy Mace of South Carolina was the only House Republican. Taiwan's foreign ministry said the visit demonstrates the unified, resolute support for Taiwan US relations in both chambers of US Congress and among both parties. As a matter of fact, the support for Taiwan as a bulwark against China's influence in the Indo-Pacific region remains a rare area of bipartisan agreement. Last Thursday night, Representative Slotkin's Twitter account posted, "When news of our trip broke yesterday, my office received a blunt message from the Chinese embassy telling me to call off the trip." Diplomatic visits to Taiwan slowed to a trickle amid the COVID-19 pandemic as Taipei adopted some of the world's strictest border and public health controls. Taiwanese Foreign Minister Joseph Wu told local lawmakers last Thursday to expect the pace of visits to pick up in the near future. In early November, a delegation made up entirely of Senate Republicans spent 3 days in Taiwan. The interest element is that the visit was not confirmed by U.S. authorities until several days later on November 15th. This was the same day President Biden held a virtual meeting with Xi Jinping. In the video call, Taiwan was featured heavily between Mr. Biden and Mr. Xi. Chinese authorities have grown nervous at recent U.S. moves to strengthen economic and military ties with Taipei. Beijing was visibly agitated by the fact that the Biden administration invited Taiwan to participate in an inaugural Summit for Democracy, a virtual gathering scheduled for December 9th and 10th. There will be more than 100 democratic governments participate and exclude China, Russia, and some other countries with authoritarian leaders. In early October, Wall Street Journal reported that American special troops and the Marine have been secretly training Taiwan forces for a year. U.S. officials told Wall Street Journal that around 24 members of U.S. Special Operations and the support troops are training small units of Taiwan's ground forces, while Marines are working with local maritime forces against an increasing likelihood of a Chinese attack. The report sparked fury among Chinese officials. The state-run newspaper Global Times, seen as a mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party, ran an editorial calling for the country's military to attack U.S. forces. Chief editor Hu Xijing wrote, Why just 24 members? Why secretly? The US should send 240 servicemen publicly in US military uniform and make public where they are stationed. See whether the PLA, People's Liberation Army, will launch a targeted airstrike to eliminate those US invaders. In mid-November, General Richard Clark, the commander of U.S. Special Operations Command, said he sees special forces playing a significant role in Washington's effort to help partners in the Indo-Pacific build up porcupine-style defenses against Chinese aggression. However, he did not say so explicitly. That likely includes Taiwan. General Clark made the remarks at a session of the Halifax International Security Forum following Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's recent confirmation to CNN of a Wall Street Journal report that a small contingent of U.S. Special Operations Forces has secretly been training the Taiwanese military. Clark's remarks suggest that the principal aim of his forces' efforts in Taiwan is to make the island democracy a less enticing target. However, the relevance of Clark's remarks to Taiwan was unmistakable. A porcupine strategy aims at equipping Taiwan with weapons such as anti-ship missiles, air defense capabilities, and drones to inflict severe losses on the People's Liberation Army in the event of an assault. The term porcupine strategy has gaining popularity. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the State Jonathan Fritz told Congress in June that the Biden administration is taking steps to shore up Taiwan's defense capabilities through a porcupine approach. And the Trump-era National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien has also endorsed such an approach. Last week, Japan's cabinet approved a boost in defense spending, bringing the total to $53 billion. It is a direct response to China's rapid military expansion and the U.S. requests for upgrades. Now, Japan's defense budget stands at 1.14% of GDP. Traditionally, Japan has kept defense spending in a given fiscal year below 1% of the previous fiscal year's GDP. But it isn't a legal requirement. Defense officials said the spending would be used to speed up deployment of patrol aircraft, helicopters, and personnel defending the island chain that runs from southern Japan toward Taiwan. It will also be used to accelerate purchases of missile defense equipment after North Korea resumed test-firing missiles in September. Former President Donald Trump, as well as officials in the Biden administration, have raised concerns that Japan's defense spending falls short of what it needs to address threats from China and North Korea. China's annual defense spending, once a fraction of Japan's, is now about 4 times as big. And even South Korea, with a population less than half of Japan, spends about as much on defense. Japan has been increasing imports of U.S. military hardware such as F-35 jet fighters and Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft. But most of the latest hardware spending will go for Japanese-made weapons. Tokyo defense officials have said they want to keep a healthy domestic arms manufacturing business. In light of China's increasingly assertive regional behavior and a continued military buildup, Japan appears to be increasingly linking its own security with that of Taiwan. Experts have suggested there is a growing willingness within Japan to come to the aid of Taiwan if called upon by the United States, or if the conflict involved the Chinese aggression directed against outlying islands under Japanese control. In the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, it is also possible that Japan may be drawn into the conflict as a result of Chinese attacks against U.S. forces and facilities in Japan and against the Japanese self-defense force. Is Taiwan like Poland before World War II? That is remained to be seen. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, Be well.